Let's go through some of the common commands that we apply on shapes. One of the most common is to set the position of the shape, and you can set that in a variety of ways. You can either define the top and left position and specify the width and the height, or you can add to the current position on the top or the left. Add top is really the same as move down, and add left is really the same as move right. Add width and add height have their natural meanings. All of these can have both positive and negative units. Let's take an example. We'll go with our rectangle, and let's say we want to set the position of this rectangle to the top left, and it should have a width of, well, let's look at the current width now. It has a width of 2.92 inches, and if I were to make it fill something close to the screen, it would have a width of around 12 inches and a height of maybe something like 5 inches. So to specify that, let's go to the rules and say rectangle 1, top 0, left 0. So that will move it to the top left corner, and the width I want it as let's say 12 inches. Now I can specify this as a string, and remember that we need to use formatted strings to specify the value. Numbers are fine, you can just specify the numbers as they are, but it's all right to specify them as strings as well. But text must be specified as formatted strings, and a height of, let's say, 5 inches. You can use the word inches, or you can use the word IN, or you could even use double quotes. I prefer IN as the abbreviation. Let's run this. SlideSense takes the input presentation, applies all of these, and says I can't open output.pptx. The reason is that we already have output.pptx open. We need to close it. Let's rerun. And that creates this rectangle with a width of 12 inches, height of 5 inches, right at the top left. What about adding to the position? So let's say we want to add to the top by about 1 inch, which means we move it downwards by 1 inch and add to the left by about 1 inch again. Now you'll notice that I am specifying the values in a variety of different ways. You can say inch, IN, or inches. You can put in a space in between. You can avoid a space in between. These are flexible ways of specifying it. You can also specify the width. Let's say we add the width by, let's say, 1 centimeter. And we can add to the height by, let's say, 15 points. That will make the height slightly larger. Well, 15 is too small. Let's make it 50 points. And it will add to the width by 1 centimeter. Have we closed output? Yes, we have closed the output presentation. So now if we run SlideSense, it's moved it, and it's also made it slightly larger. The width is 3.31 inches, whereas earlier it was 2.92 inches. That's, I'm guessing, adding 1 centimeter to the original. And the height is 2.11, whereas the height earlier was 1.4. That's probably adding about 50 points. These positions can be applied to practically any shape in PowerPoint. There are a few exceptions, very minor ones, but by and large you can use this to change the shape and position of rectangles, ovals, text boxes, charts, images, and practically every other kind of presentation. But there's one other kind of position command that I'd like to talk about, which is rotation and zoom. Rotation rotates it by a certain degree. So if I, let's say, rotated it by 90 degrees, this is what it would look like. So let's take this oval, close our output first. Let's take the oval, and for oval 2, which is the name of this shape, we will set the rotation to 90. This can be specified just as a number, and run SlideSense. So the oval is now rotated 90 degrees. If I specified the rotation as 30 degrees and ran SlideSense, rotates it by 30 degrees and stores it there. What if I wanted to increase it? That is, it's already rotated by, let's say, 30 degrees, and I want to rotate it further by plus 30 degrees, or rotate it back. I want to get it back to its original position. So I say minus 30 degrees and run SlideSense. That gets the rotation back to 0 degrees. It's not just rotations that we can control, but there are many other shape properties that we can control. And I'll talk about those adjustments in a few seconds. First, let's add a shape that can be adjusted. Let's take a triangle. A triangle has a position here at the top, which can range from 0 to 1. Other shapes, such as, let's say, these braces, have two adjustments. One that determines how rectangular or curved it is, and a second that determines how deep it's inset from the top versus the bottom. So what we'll do is take this brace and this triangle and change their adjustments. These adjustments are called adjustment 1, adjustment 2, adjustment 3, adjustment 4, and so on, all the way up to adjustment 8. The triangle has only adjustment 1, whereas the brace has adjustment 1 and adjustment 2. We don't know which is which, so we're going to do some trial and error. Let's start with the triangle, in which we'll say adjustment 1 should be set to, and this is a number between 0 and 1. So we're going to set it to 0.75 just to see what that does. And for the brace, let's set adjustment 1 to 0.25 and adjustment 2 to 0.75 and see what that does. When we run SlideSense, it makes these two adjustments. This triangle now is now 75% skewed to the right because the adjustment 1 was 75%. This brace was, well, I don't know which is which, to be honest. So either it's 75% to the bottom and that's adjustment 2, and this is 25% near the top and that's adjustment 1, or the other way around. But we'll have to do this by trial and error. Any shape that has these kinds of yellow circles that indicate that you can move them around can be controlled using adjustments. The last position command that I want to talk about is zoom. What zoom does is, get rid of this rest, increases or decreases the size around the center. So we have this triangle. If I used Control and Shift and expanded this, then it becomes larger around the center. Now, the same effect of pressing Control, Shift and increasing the size is what's provided by the zoom command. So I'm going to say zoom it by a factor of 2. We'll close the output first and run SlideSense. This triangle now in the output window is twice as large but centered around the same position. So we've now covered top, left, width and height as position commands, add top, add left, add width and add height as changing position or moving commands, and rotation and add rotation to change the rotation, zoom to zoom around the center, and the various adjustments that can let you control the shape adjustments.